Good morning and welcome. Happy Memorial Day weekend. I'm Angela Davis and I'm the Forum Quilter. And today we're going to talk about guilty pleasures. What's a guilty pleasure? I don't know the actual Webster Dictionary definition for it. However, my definition is something you enjoy that's personally your own. It's not detrimental to your health. It enriches your soul, and it's something just yours. It doesn't hurt anybody else. It's just one of those little guilty pleasures in life, whether it's your morning coffee that you buy at a name brand coffee shop. Or do you collect vintage books? Do you collect stamps? Do you collect postcards? Do you collect antique toys? You know, whatever that guilty pleasure is. Mine is vintage and modern, but mostly vintage patterns and craft books. And I've shown a number of them on my videos. But today is all about that guilty pleasure. And when I say I collect them, I collect them. And I have more than several here that I'm just going to sort of pop up in and out of the video and talk about. But one of the big reasons why I'm going to talk about it today is I'm going to challenge myself this spring and summer to follow a vintage pattern for a quilt. I'm not giving myself a deadline to finish it. My challenge is to follow the vintage pattern, the way it's been written and how the construction method is. And the reason why I want to do this is normally when I pick a pattern for a quilt, I may pick a specific block, but I'm not actually following a pattern. I tend to pick a design element or a technique or a simple pattern, and then I make it my own. I'm going to challenge myself to actually follow a pattern, which is something I don't do, which is contradictory to the fact that I collect vintage patterns and vintage quilt books that have patterns in them. But I very rarely follow a pattern. I use them as guidance for techniques. I use them as guidance for color selection, and I use them for inspiration. I just grabbed a bunch, and I have 2 stacks here, and I'm just going to start with the one on top, okay? This one is by Maggie Malone, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I really love her books. Her books are, let's see, this one is copyright 1985, 8th edition. Library of Congress catalog and publication data, original publication date was 1942. And the reason why I love hers is she gives individual blocks. And I've talked about this before. How a lot of these vintage pattern books, they gave you just the block. And they gave you suggestions on layouts, but the rest was up to you. So the creativity, they give you the basics, but the creativity is all up to you. And a lot of them are in black and white. And this particular edition has full-size pattern pieces. Some of the original pattern pieces, they gave you a smaller scale, and then you had to scale it up to the size. Oh boy. 120 patterns for traditional patchwork quilts by Maggie Malone. I'm just going to go from side to side. This one is a Garden of Quilts, and I have 2 copies of this one. I have some little papers in there of patterns that one day I'd like to do. This one is copyright 1984 Oxmoor House. And this one is all about how flowers inspire people to make beautiful things. And it starts out by saying, it is impossible to imagine a world without flowers. Isn't that beautiful? It says, flowers have been the inspiration for artists since the cave painters. Van Gogh painted lively bouquets of sunflowers to brighten his garret in Paris. Try to imagine the still life paintings of the old masters like Rembrandt without their lilies and tulips. And then it goes on to show you some vintage quilts of flowers. And these three quilts right here on this display are 1850s. Aren't they gorgeous? But this book goes on, it's mostly applique flowers. Well, no, I take that back. It's all flowers. Some are applique, some are pieced. And as you can see, I have some papers, and some of them of ones that I would like to do in the future that are on my bucket list. The Quilter's Album of Blocks and Borders by Ginny Beyer. If you have never been exposed to Ginny Beyer, she does phenomenal things with quilt making, design, color elements, and layout, structuring of a quilt. Jenny, this is copyright, let's look, 1980. And Jenny Beyer does a lot, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of her piecing by hand. There are a lot of hand piecers out there, and I commend you. But this too, now granted, you have to consider the time, 1980, they were still producing books with just the pattern blocks. Black and white photos to give you ideas, color layouts, and of course, I mean, obviously the Quilter's Album of Blocks and Borders, that's what it was all about, this particular book. So this one also gives you inspiration for creating your own quilt. Lap Quilting with Georgia Bonestead. This is copyright 1982. Let me show you the cover. This is by Oxmoor House. Let's see. This one too gives you, again, it's the 80s. They're still doing a lot of black and white sketches to give you ideas. And then this book gives you full-size pattern pieces in the back. And then toward the very back, it does provide you with some color photos of examples. Look at those. Look at that one. Like I said, my thoughts today are I'm going to pick out a full pattern from one of my vintage books to create my next quilt. This one is Best-Selling Bazaar Patchwork. It says printing 1992. Now this one has different types of patchwork that can be used for selling at craft shows, bazaar. Back then they called them bazaars. Here's the cover photo. Beautiful sampler. You know what? I have it marked already. That's a possibility. I'm gonna keep that one marked. That's a possibility, doing a sampler. I'm gonna set that one aside because I do like that. I do like that sampler. I like the sampler. A Garden of Quilts. This is the same as this. Only this one has a sleeve. You can't get enough of a good thing. Okay, magazines and pamphlets. I love these. America's Favorite Quilting Magazine. Now these magazines are a wonderful resource for quilters and sewists. This is summer 1989. Look at the pineapple. Beautiful. Let's see, anything in here inspiring me? Square and a square. This is Drunkard's Path. Some people call it a garden path. And down here, flying geese. Wow, look at the applique flowers there. Beautiful. Let's do this one. 1985 Country Quilts. Look, I call that prairie flower. Someone would call that rose, prairie rose. That's beautiful. Ocean Waves. That's a good one. I'm afraid if I pick something that has a repeated pattern, I'm going to get bored. So I see myself, if I do Ocean Waves, I think I might get bored with it. I call this Tree of Life. Beautiful. Beautiful. Quilt magazines. A friend of mine mailed me a bunch of quilt magazines that she found at a thrift store in her community, and some of them are just lovely. Some of them just have the repeated pattern. My Blue Mystery. That's a gorgeous one. This one is called Summer Memory. It's a star pattern. I like that one. Let's consider that one. You gotta love a magazine called Old Fashioned Patchwork. I love it. This is spring 1989. Heck, I like the ones on the cover. Star pattern with a 4-patch. I like that. Baskets. I like both of those. Look at the back cover. Again, double wedding ring. And a rose. Another, I call that prairie rose. Patchwork for Beginners. Ohio Star. And then they give you the quilting pattern to do the hand quilting. A lot of these older magazines, they just didn't give you the pieced pattern. They gave you the quilting pattern as well. It's the reason why I like a lot of these old patterns. Because so many times in a lot of patterns, it'll say quilt as desired, and then you're going, it's almost, the quilting was, the quilting becomes an afterthought. And, or you send it out to someone else who does the quilting for you, which is fine. But a lot of these old patterns, they didn't just give you the pieced pattern, they gave you the quilting pattern to go with it. And I like that. I like that a lot about a lot of these old patterns. Here's the baskets from the front cover, that little snippet. Grandmother's Flower Garden. Oh, that's on my bucket list. It is definitely on my bucket list. This is the book. This is the one where I'm going to get the pattern from. A lot of good ones we've looked through. But I'm thinking this is going to be the one. This one is Better Homes and Gardens Creative American Quilting. This is copyright 1989. I look through this book a lot because you can see the bindings coming apart. Let me give you a sneak peek. They talk about stitching with random patches, string piecing. They give you, yeah, it's definitely coming apart. Here's a baskets with flowers block. You know, wow, I really like this one. Okay, I think, because I was looking at this one before, the flowers, the baskets with flowers. I'm really considering this one for this summer. So let me show you the pattern after looking at all the patterns and spending weeks and weeks literally thinking about which pattern I'm going to make this summer. And of course I didn't mark it. Why would I do that? That would make sense, Angela. It's called the Lincoln quilt. And the first Lincoln quilt was pieced in 1809 by Abraham Lincoln's mother, Nancy Hanks. And here it is. This is one version of it. But that's the one I'm thinking about doing. And it gives me full instructions on how to make it. Okay, so I've had a chance to consider it, and I'm going with the flower basket quilt. I think definitely for this summer, this is the way I want to go. And one of the reasons being is it combines applique with piecework. And the applique is very gentle applique. Now, I'm going to follow the pattern instructions and its guidance. Now, I might not make a bed quilt. I may make a throw size quilt instead of the full size quilt, but I am going to challenge myself to follow a pattern. And that's the one I'm going to do. So with that being said, this is going to be a series, Flower Basket Quilt, and I will name it that, and I'll have it on its own playlist. So thanks so much for watching. Give me a thumbs up and a like, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss me making this pattern. And meet me back here next time for part 1, where I'm going to be choosing colors, fabric, prints, and creating the templates. I hope you have a great Memorial Day weekend. Again, the Flower Basket Quilt, I'm starting to challenge myself this summer to follow a pattern. And it's Memorial Day weekend, so to commemorate Memorial Day weekend, I have here just a strippy quilt, red, white, and blue. I threw it together one afternoon. I basically did 3 strips separated by long solid color strips. So I just quilted blocks together. Oh, sorry, I just pieced blocks together. I did not match up seams. I decided on a length. I added a border, and there you go, red, white, and blue. So thanks for watching and joining me today. This is a quick little impromptu sharing my guilty pleasure, but also in helping me decide which pattern, helping me work through which pattern I wanted to do for my next adventure in quilting. And hope you have a great and safe Memorial Day weekend. For all of you who have served and know someone who have served, who have given their time, their energy, their time away from their families and their homes, have given sweat, blood, tears, limb, their body and souls. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Hope you enjoyed the video. Remember, why sleep when you can sew? Have a great and safe weekend. Bye.